Hi, and welcome. My name is Andy Billman. You can find me at Believe on the Land. You can also find me on at Official Cleveland Sports, but now head title is Believe in the Land. My name is Andy Billman. We are here to preview what is going to happen with our Cleveland Cavaliers as they play the New York Knicks. A lot of hype about the series, actually, even though there are teams that seem above these two. The Cavs finished the year very strong. The other teams that are seen in the East as the big bad bullies, we'll call them, the Bucks, Sixers, and Celtics are heavy favorites. Yet those series are not as focused on it compared to the Cavs and Knicks series. And why is because it's very even, and there's a lot of hype about both teams. As we all know, in Cleveland, we love the Cavs are back in the playoffs. There's a lot more energy on it as well. That it's a non-LeBron team going into the playoffs. I'm not as so interested and hyped about that, but there are fans and there are people out there who are very stoked about that. So to be fair, that has some weight to some people. The Knicks are back too. So these are two teams that have very similar backgrounds. The Knicks have been dormant for a long time, even though they made the playoffs a few times. It hasn't been as energized as this. The city of New York is behind this team, and not just from the fans' perspective, which fans are always behind their teams. The media in New York's behind this team. There's a lot more energy. There's a lot more belief there. And the same is true for our Cavs. The Cavs come in here not limping in as they did last year in a way, even though they made the playoff round and when they went to the playing games. I don't know if the belief was as much there. I had some, but I don't know if others had as much. This year, there's a lot of belief, and both teams again similar in this way. They brought in guards that brought in a lot of energy. Obviously, the trade for Mitchell for the Cavs, and then Brunson for the Knicks, and he's done a lot for the city there, as Mitchell has. I mean, Mitchell has by far, in my opinion, become the leader of this team. He is the face of this team, and he is a tremendous star. Brunson has moments as well. They're very similar. These are very similar teams in those aspects. So because of that, a lot of hype's going on around the series of who's going to win. A lot of people want to see the series to see who is going to win, who's going to play. And it's not an easy series to define on who's the favorite, there's no clear-cut favorite in the series. You're going to hear a lot of predictions. You're going to hear a lot of people emphasizing certain things, and all of that's fair. But at the end of the day, it's a very even series. So for even someone who watches the Cavs every night like I do, it's hard to really get a 100% vibe on how the series is going to go because these two teams are very close and because, frankly, these two teams have not made it this far in a long time. Even though there's playoff experience with Brunson, there's playoff experience with Mitchell, really both teams don't have a lot of playoff experience. Thibodeau has playoff experience coaching for the Bulls over the years and other teams. JB is very raw in this area too. So in the coaching aspect, Thibodeau definitely has the advantage there. He's got a lot more experience than JB does. That might come into play in this series. We'll talk about that. So this is a very even series. So for us Cavaliers fans, I think that's the first thing you have to realize is we need to enjoy this journey. There is no real clear cut or roadmap of how things are going to be played when it comes to results on a game-by-game basis. I think all these games are very unpredictable at times. So you can't go in there thinking that, the Cavs are this way, or I don't think that's the way to go. Now, there are definitely keys and themes to focus on this series, and we're going to talk about them now. But I wouldn't get too rung up into game-by-game trying to get a vibe, as I don't know if that's going to matter as much as it would to other series. And what I'm referencing is don't get too overthought or overhyped or overdown I just think in this series, both these teams are so even that a big part of this for our Cavs fans is we need to enjoy this. We're finally back in the spotlight. The Mitchell trade has put this into a big focus. Mobley's defense, Jared Allen, and of course Garland, the whole four horsemen for our Cavs. have given us an opportunity to really enjoy this. And it makes it kind of nerve-wracking because we really don't know how this is going to go, and that's okay. Now, there's some definite keys to this series, and let's get to them now. A lot of people are breaking down, as it traditionally is, player by player, talent, and there's definitely at times where you need to do that stuff in the playoffs. If you really want to go into hyper-focus chamber of players, Brunson and Mitchell is the hyper-focus. Don't get too lost in some of these other things of matchups. Brunson and Mitchell is a big matchup. It has a lot of flavor behind it. They've played together against each other in the playoffs, and it's definitely going to be a key matchup in the series. And that's where we should begin and start. Mitchell, who's had an unbelievable year for the Cavs, who's done a wonderful job of really, I think, taking this team to the next level. And Brunson's done similar things for the Knicks. I don't think there's a clear favorite here of who's better in this matchup, but here's something I will say. I think Mitchell will play very well and hit late game shots for the Cavs. I think there'll be a game in the series or two where you'll see him take over in the fourth quarter and really take this team on the back and make key shots in key moments. I think Brunson will have some of that. I think Mitchell's better than that. I think Mitchell is a better player here. Brunson does play up to Mitchell and does not shy away from competition. I do think the slight edge here goes to Mitchell. I think he's slightly the better player. But in the overall scheme, it isn't a huge difference here. And again, Brunson played with the Mavericks last year and the Jazz from Mitchell. Brunson definitely outplayed him last year. This year, in the last game at home, even though Mitchell had a wonderful game, I thought Mitchell really played well in that final home game against the Knicks. Brunson outplayed him there too. So there are moments where Brunson will rise above it, but probably whoever wins that matchup, Mitchell versus Brunson, will win the series. There's a lot of things that get lost in the weeds. There's a lot of things in this series that will cause people to overanalyze. At the end of the day, Mitchell and Brunson is really the key topic. It is the thing that really drives this series. Don't have that get lost on you as a Cavs fan. That is the key to the series. Whoever wins that matchup more than likely will win this series. It's not everything, but it's pretty big key. And if you really look back at all these stats and all the analytics and going into bench matchups, which we'll talk about, the number one matchup I would look into is who won the matchup between Brunson and Mitchell. Other keys to this series goes as following. Tempo, tempo, tempo. The Cavs have to slow down the Knicks. These games cannot be going into 110s and over. The Cavs need to keep these games in the high 90s to low to mid 100s. You do not want to get these games into the 109s and above. It's not how the Cavs play. It does not make them successful. They are defensive metrically rated as the best teams, if not the best. The Cavs have the best metrics. I believe a key reason why, and watching this team all year, is because of the tempo. When they play slow, they force other opponents to play slow, Cavs do much better. When the tempo is fast-paced, when everything is really riled up, and it's helter-skelter, Cavs don't do as well. Cavs need to slow this game down, and that's a key for Garland. Garland must slow the tempo down. He did a very poor job of that in the last game against the Knicks. He must do better. If this game is helter-skelter, if you see a lot of long throws for easy layups, even for both sides, that's not a good sign for the Cavs. Cavs must slow down this game. Brunson Mitchell, number one. The tempo, number two. Three is rebounding. Cavs have great defensive metrics. Usually that goes hand in hand with rebounding. In most cases, Cavs are a rare exception. They are not a good rebounding team. They're in the bottom half. They are not towards the bottom of the league, but again, they are not in the top 15 either, which is surprising. Cavs have to be able to rebound. Mobley is a defender that is out and about blocking shots and matching up, playing switch defense. He will take on guards. He will take on small forwards. So because of that, he is led away from the rim. Allen must do that job of protecting the rim as well. He's also going to have to do a job of rebounding. Both Allen and Mobley, but more importantly, Mobley, they do not focus on rebounding. They're out there blocking shots. They're also out there trying to garner defensively Mobley on switch matchups and Allen protecting the rim. The Cavs' other three must do a good job of rebounding. Yes, Mobley and Allen will get the rebounds, but that's not their main focus on defense. Their main focus on defense, as I said, is Mobley is on switch defensing, blocking shots. Allen's blocking shots number 1, 2. So because of that, it takes them away from the rim and rebounding. They will get their rebounds, but the other three on the floor must rebound the ball. Cavs are not good at boxing out. They are not good at scrambling for loose balls. They're not even, I would say, average. They're definitely below average in that stuff. And in the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's been exacerbated, this problem. Cavs cannot allow the Knicks to get second and third opportunities. They'll kill them in the series. Kill them. They have to be able to box out. Final point is the bench. There's a lot of people making this the bench series, and that favors the Knicks. Don't fall into that trap. So let's lead off there. It's not that big. The NBA bench never determines the series. It won't determine this series either. I said if you want a clear matchup, look for the Brunson and Mitchell matchup. That's my key, along with tempo, along with rebounding. But the benches does have some importance. LeVert has done a very nice job in the last 6 weeks. He has really taken off. He's actually played pretty steady all year, even though he's gotten a lot of heat from fans and heat from experts. Just remember that LeVert knows how to make his teammates around him better. He plays actually above average defense and does a nice job offensively. He makes players around him on the floor better, and he can make shots from time to time. Outside of that, you're going to see a little bit of Rubio, in my opinion. I would hope we'd see a little bit of Danny Green. He did play towards the end of the season. I think it's time to utilize him. I do think you're obviously going to see a little bit of Osman at times. And I would hope Danny Green, but I'm sure you're going to see Dean Wade. I'm not a Dean Wade guy. Nothing against the young man. I just haven't been impressed by him. And I think he really brings down the Cavs on the floor because he's not a good defender and, frankly, doesn't rebound well. And he fouls a lot. So he's really out there for offense, in my opinion, not defense. He's got size, but he's really not really a defender. The bench in this series will be key at times. It is not everything, though. Those other 3 points are far more important. The Cavs bench show must be able to step up, and it just can't be LeVert alone. LeVert's going to carry a lot of it, though. The Knicks do have advantage in numbers and in multiple players coming off quickly, especially. Quickly has really been a thorn for the Cavs this year. I would expect nothing else. I would not expect anything less in the series. I think Quickly is going to play very well. That said, it's not everything in the series, and don't get wrapped up into it. But the Cavs, especially LeVert, must be able to lift that on the floor. Finally is injuries. Randall's injured for the Knicks. Okoro for the Cavs. The Randall injury is far bigger. That is a much bigger piece to the series. Sounds like he will play. Whether it starts off tonight, I would think it would. I would not suspect that Randall's going to miss any time. I would be surprised if Okoro plays tonight. I think Okoro will see him in future games. Total guess. I have no idea. If he were to play, I wouldn't expect much. I would expect at the most 10 to 12 minutes. Then he sits down. Another factor in this is Okoro is all or nothing anyways. When he's played all year, he's either been very good across the board and steady, or he's checked out and been bad. Because of his injuries going into this series, I'm not expecting much from Okoro at times because the man hasn't played, and it's not fair to him to expect him to play wonderfully in this series. Randall is a bigger thing here. He really contributes a lot to the Knicks. Outside of Brunson, he's the number 2 player you think of for the Knicks. That is a far bigger injury. Okoro does hurt. He would do some things against Brunson. I'll be truthful. I think that's overplayed as well at times. I don't think that's everything in this series if Okoro was even healthy. I think there'd be multiple. I think you would see Mitchell on Brunson. I think you'll see multiple things on Brunson in this series, not just Okoro if he was healthy. Okoro's injury is big. Hopefully he is able to play. I'm not expecting him to. But injuries in this series are number 5. So 1's the Brunson-Mitchell matchup, 2's tempo, 3's rebounding, 4 is the bench, and 5 is the injuries with Okoro and Randall. I see the Cavs winning this in 7. I think this will be a very tough, grinding series. I think the Cavs are ready for this. There's going to be a lot of pressure on JB to perform. He is not really well loved by Cavs fans, as you would think. Francona gets far more support. And I'd even say at times I think Stefanski and JB are kind of mirror, even though I think JB has done a pretty good job. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him. I know that Thibodeau's got far more experience in the playoffs. There's no question. JB is going to have moments where he, coming out of timeouts, is going to have to draw up a play, and that's very key in the NBA playoffs. Haven't seen that at times really work for the Cavs. He's going to have those moments. All that to be said, Cavs have a good surrounding staff. I think that will help JB a lot. JB also doesn't seem to get too nervous. I don't see a man who thinks the spotlight's too big for him. I think that's good. Obviously, we'll see how he reacts naturally as the ball tips off. But again, I don't think Thibodeau either is on this genius level and JB's a rook. I don't see that either. The only thing about JB in this series, again, I'll mention, is coming out of timeouts in key situations late. Will he be able to draw up plays to make hoops in the NBA? That's a big thing. You got to be able to draw up plays offensively to score in late game situations when the score is under 4. It's very, very important. He's going to have to be able to do that. There's no doubt there'll be moments like that in the series. That said, I think this team is ready. The Cavs really get along really well. That will be tested in the series. But I think they will. I think this series is going to go all the way to the end. I would not be surprised if the Knicks come out of the box a little hotter. But I think as the series goes on, the Cavs have the better talent. If you even match up player to player, the Cavs have the stronger roster. I think Mitchell's a better player compared to Brunson. And with that, I think that's why the Cavs will be victorious. Very even series. I think it goes 7 all the way through. And I really like the Cavaliers' chances as they play the Knicks in this series. But don't be surprised of games that go sideways and don't go our way. Because the Knicks are good. And the Knicks are able to do things that really frustrate the Cavs. They can make the tempo go. Brunson can definitely play above Mitchell at times, which is a big factor. And they can rebound really well. Those are things that really frustrate the Cavs. Because of that, it makes the series on tilt, and it makes us very nervous Cavs fans. Enjoy this experience. With that said, there will be moments of greatness too. And I really believe at the end of the day, the Mobley factor on defense, the ability for Jarrett Allen to also back him up will take away shots that really the Knicks like. The Knicks are not one of these teams. They're like Golden State. They're even the Celtics that just pop off on threes. They do like to drive the lane. I think the Cavs, as the series goes on, I think they'll take away those shots. And late in the fourth quarter, actually, I think the Cavs defense gets very tight, and that really favors the Cavs. I think that'll be a big factor in the series. People get very focused on how the Cavs sometimes offensively struggle in the fourth quarter, which is fair at times, but their defense in the fourth quarter is very, very strong. And don't forget that either. That is a huge factor in the series. We'll be on after every game. The handle is @official Cleveland Sports. This is Believe in the Land. Check me out. I'll be on after every Cavaliers game. Cavs in 7. I think Mitchell is better than Brunson and will win that series. I think tempo will be controlled by the Cavs, especially late in games. They'll keep it within the high, I think, hundreds. They won't let it get to the 110s. Rebounding at times, I think, will be very frustrating, but I think they'll do enough what they have to do to win. And I think LeVert will play really well in the series. I get the feeling LeVert's going to play well. And I don't think the Thibodeau experience will be much a factor as others are making it out to be. That said, it's a very 50-50 series. That's why I see it going in 7 for the Cavs. We'll be on after the game. Check us out. Go Cavs as always. See you after the game tonight with the Knicks and the Cavs.